Hello and welcome to this week's Children's Church Digital. I'm Shirley. Last week, Yvonne told you the story of the baby Moses and how his mother left him in the River Nile for the princess to find him. This week I'm going to tell you another part of that story. Moses grew up in the palace. He lived with the Pharaoh and his adopted mother. Now, one day Moses was out walking through the land and he saw an Egyptian soldier being very cruel to an Israelite who was working. Moses lost his temper and he struck the Egyptian soldier, and unfortunately the soldier died. Now Moses became very, very scared. He knew what he was done was wrong, and he knew that the Pharaoh would have him killed if he was found. So Moses ran away. He ran into the desert and he ended up in a place called Midian. There he met and married and had a family, and he lived quite happily for quite a few years. One day Moses was out tending his flock when he looked over and he thought, what's that? That bush. That bush is on fire. And as he walked closer, he realised that he could see the flames. He could hear the crackles. But the bush, it wasn't burning. The bush was on fire, but the bush did not burn. All of a sudden, he heard a voice. Moses! Moses! The voice was coming from the bush. Moses looked. Moses, take off your shoes. This is holy ground. Moses took off his shoes and fell to his knees. The voice in the bush said, I am the God of Abraham, Isaac and Jacob. And I want you, Moses, I want you to go back to Egypt and set the Israelites free. Moses looked and laughed and said, not me, no, got the wrong fella. But God said, no, Moses, I've chosen you. You will go back to Egypt and you will set my people free. Moses looked and said, no, you got the wrong fella. Nobody's going to listen to me. And anyway, nobody's going to believe me. Who will believe me? But God said, don't worry. See your walking stick there? Place it on the ground. So Moses did as he was told. And his walking stick turned into a snake. Well, Moses jumped up and stepped back pretty quick, I can tell you. And then the voice said, pick the snake up by the tail. So Moses bent down and grabbed hold of the snake's tail, and instantly it turned back into his walking stick. And then God said, don't worry about talking to people, convincing people. I will send you your brother Aaron, and he will help you. You go back to Egypt. So Moses did. On the journey there, he met up with his brother, and they both went to see the Pharaoh. And Moses looked and said, please set my people free. God has told me to come here and tell you to set the people free. The Pharaoh looked and said, no, don't think so. We need them far too much here to do the work for us. No, they're staying right where they are. And Moses said, please, horrible things will happen if you don't. And the Pharaoh said, no, I'm not letting the Israelites go. So God sent a plague. He turned the rivers to blood. He sent a plague of frogs. People couldn't get out of the way of them, and they trod on them and they got in their food. Then he sent a plague of gnats, and it was all in people's hair and in their mouths. And then he sent a plague of flies, and they got everywhere and landed on all their food. But still, the Pharaoh would not set the people free. Then the animals all fell sick and died. People got sores on their bodies and were very, very annoyed. Hail fell from the sky and ruined all the crops. But when Moses went back to ask the Pharaoh to set the people free, Pharaoh still said, no, they're not going anywhere. So then there was a plague of locusts that finished up the crops that had been ruined by the hail. Then darkness fell. For 3 whole days there was no light. But still, the Pharaoh would not let the people go. Then finally, God sent an angel that killed the oldest son of the Egyptians. And everybody in the land cried. And then Pharaoh said, go, get out of my land, go. The Israelites packed up all their belongings, put them into wagons and anything that could carry in, onto backpacks, and they left. But the Pharaoh changed his mind, and he sent his army after them. So the Israelites had the Egyptian army at their backs, and before them they had the Red Sea. The people did not know what to do. The people were scared. The people complained to Moses that they was all going to die. But God said to Moses, lift up your walking stick and stand before the river. And as Moses did that, the sea parted, and the Israelites fled through the sea. And as the last Israelite stepped onto the far shore, the sea came crashing down. Now, there is a little bit more to this story, and if you come back next week, I will tell you the rest of it. Okay? Now, give me a minute. I'll turn my camera around and we'll do some craft. Okay? For this week's craft, you will need a paper plate and some pencils. All you will need to do is draw a squirrely line on your plate, just like this. Go all the way around, like a spiral. And in the centre, do a big circle. And in that circle, draw an eye and a mouth. Okay, then colour and decorate that in. You can even, if you want to, like I have, put on the plagues that God sent to the people of Egypt. And right at the very end is the angel of death. Then, very carefully, get your mum or your dad or an adult in your household to cut along your spiral line, and you will end up with your very own snake. And that's to remind us of Moses' walking stick. Okay, that's all you will need. Okay, be back soon, ready for our prayer. Now, it's time for a prayer. Lord, as Moses trusted in you, and as you were always there to help him, help us, Lord. Help us to follow your path. Help us to trust you. Be with us all today, Lord, as we face our own plague, not sent by you, but as we come to terms with COVID and we learn to live with it. And hopefully very, very soon, Lord, there will be a vaccine so we can come through this terrible time. Please be with all our scientists, Lord, and our leaders, and help them to the right choices.